This set of notes is about thermodynamic favorability, which is also sometimes called spontaneity. There is no notes for this preset notes for this set of notes. You'll need to take your own. It's a very short note set, so I didn't make a set of notes for you on this one. All right, so far, what we think about in terms of chemical reactions, in terms of how they happen, and what happens with them. There's two key questions that chemists will always ask about chemical reactions. One, how fast is the reaction, which is our idea about reaction rates, which is kinetics, which is what we did back in Unit 9. And that, again, always depends upon overcoming the activation energy. So it's what happens between the beginning and the end of the reaction. The second question is how complete is the reaction, okay? And that's a question of equilibrium, okay? And that depends upon the reaction rates, as we've seen, right? KEQ, how fast the forward reaction rate goes, comparison to how fast the reverse reaction rate goes, determines our equilibrium, okay? So if the completeness or equilibrium of the reaction depends upon reaction rates, and reaction rates depend upon overcoming the activation energy, we can then say logically that equilibrium has to depend upon energy in some way. And so, therefore, when we talk about equilibrium and energy, we're back to talking about thermodynamics or thermochemistry. Okay. Our focus so far this year, whenever we've talked about thermodynamics or thermochemistry, has been on enthalpy, delta H. But our focus now is going to add entropy, or S. All right. We talked a little bit about entropy back when we were talking about making solutions, because making solutions, especially a solution that is endothermic, requires entropy in order for that to actually happen. But we haven't gotten into the nuts and bolts. So this unit is going to start adding the idea of entropy and how that relates to energy and chemistry, and specifically how it relates to equilibrium. So, if you recall, way back at the beginning of the year, the very first time we talked about energy in chemistry, we talked about the first law, which is conservation of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed in the universe. Okay, so total energy in the universe is a constant. However, it can be converted from one form to another and transferred from a system to the surroundings, or vice versa. Okay, so we can store energy in different ways. We can transfer it between objects, transfer it between systems. Okay, but we cannot create or destroy it. So that was our first law of thermodynamics. Are there other laws? Yes. And so that's we're sort of where we're starting now. We're starting to move in that direction of the second law and the third law. But in order to get to those, we need to talk about spontaneous processes, or thermodynamically favorable processes. Okay? A spontaneous process is a process that will proceed without any outside intervention. So if you start it, it just happens and it keeps going. Okay, so for example, over here I have a gas in a vessel. In between there's a closed stopcock. On the other side, there's an evacuated flask that has nothing in it, and it's been completely evacuated, right? No gas or anything. So if I go ahead and I open up this stopcock, we know that these particles on this side, on the A side, are moving around, and so they will move around and they will spread, and they will spread so that they occupy both flasks. That process is spontaneous. It just happens. We had to just turn the knob, and once we did that, the reaction happened without any intervention on our part. We contrast this with a process that is not spontaneous. So imagine that once I have all of the particles spread out between A and B, and I want to get them all back to the A side. That's not just naturally going to happen. That would require me to do some kind of outside intervention. So the process of the particles all going back to part A would be not spontaneous. Okay, now our book uses the term spontaneous. AP has strongly moved or shifted to using the words thermodynamically favorable to avoid the common language definition of spontaneous. So again, spontaneous doesn't mean it just pops up out of nowhere. It means that it proceeds without intervention. And so that's why AP uses the term thermodynamically favorable. So if you see them say a process is thermodynamically favorable, or is this process thermodynamically favorable? They're asking, is it spontaneous? They mean the same thing. All right. So if we talk about reversible processes, processes that are spontaneous in one direction are non-spontaneous in the reverse direction. So if it just happens in one direction, it will be non-spontaneous happening in the reverse direction. The other thing that happens with spontaneous processes is if they are thermodynamically favorable at one temperature, they may not be not thermodynamically favorable at another temperature. For example, if we're talking about ice melting, if we are above 0 degrees Celsius, it's spontaneous for ice to melt. It will just happen. But if we're below 0 degrees Celsius, the reverse process is spontaneous. Moving from liquid to solid is spontaneous. Okay, so different versions of being thermodynamically favorable depending upon the temperature. All right, that's all you need to know for right now about thermodynamically favorable processes. We'll get into a lot deeper here over the next few days, but that's the first step in us moving towards understanding other laws of thermodynamics, knowing what a thermodynamically favorable process means.